Yo, welcome back to the Coach B's YouTube channel, and I'm actually about to hop on a Zoom call with Nichols College. I'm going to be presenting about my business, so stay tuned. This will be interesting. They're letting me in, so they just emailed me actually the marketing department professor. One of the professors just emailed me, said, hey, I see that you have a business and we're in Central Mass and we have this project that we have our students do to help them with real world experience, kind of like an internship. So basically what I'm going to do is present my app, the Beast Training app, to them, and they're going to create a marketing plan around that app. So I'm just going to explain the business, everything I do, just kind of get it. They can fill me out, I can fill them out, kind of a meet and greet. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but my voice is kind of shaking. I'm actually kind of nervous. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I'm about to get some tea or something. Oh, they let me in.
How you guys doing?
Good. How about you?
Good. All right, he was there. Hi, Coach Beasley. How are you? I can see you now.
I am well. We had a large classroom. How's everybody doing today? A head nod or something?
Yeah. That's what thumbs up.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming this morning and for allowing us to work with you and your company for this semester. So we have about I started the semester with 27 students, but if we already dropped the class, so we have about 25. So I divided the class into groups. Half of the class is going to be working on this project for you, and then the other half is going to work on another project for another company. So the students who have been assigned to work with you, they're also going to be two groups. So the day when you come back for them to present the project to you, they're going to be, each group is going to have 30 minutes to present their ideas to you or to pitch their ideas to you.
Okay.
So if you could please start by sharing with the students a little bit about yourself, and then about the company, and then about the app.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Deshaun Beasley, born and raised Cincinnati, Ohio. The game of basketball has taken me all over the world. Moved to Orlando, played overseas, landed here in Boston, started coaching at Pine Manor College. Due to the pandemic and it closing, I decided to go full time into a basketball training business, and we're a full year later. And now I have 3 coaches working with me. We do recruiting camps all over the nation. So that's kind of a little bit of my story, just to touch on it. The business, what we do, basketball training, like teaching life skills through basketball. So that's definitely not a responsibility that we take lightly. So we're creating like a skills training curriculum, if you will, and that's kind of why I, had the idea of creating the app. So currently, right now, we're in the works of a 3-on-3 league. Doing semi-privates, privates, like I said, camps and clinics. I'm actually going to Orlando and Houston at the end of this month to do some camps and clinics, but it's a little bit about the organization and then the app. So my thought process behind the app is, y'all probably see it all the time. Somebody comes into a weight room or like the basketball court and they just kind of like walk around, don't really know what they're doing, right? Obviously, we want to give them an app so they can just hop on their phone. Hey, I want to work on ball handling. Boom, I go in there, get some drills to work on it. So that's kind of the idea about the app, and on the app as well, you can hop into our virtual training classes. So we offer virtual training as well. So it's looking to make a one-stop shop for player and skill development. So that's kind of my thought process behind the app and my business. If I kind of touched on everything, kind of condensed all that in like 3-4 minutes. But
So you're a professional basketball player, right? You play abroad. Which countries?
so I played in Spain and Italy.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then you were a college basketball coach.
Yeah. So well, then I came back to Orlando and I coached high school basketball for 3 years. I played on a pro team in Florida as well, and then that's when I got the coaching job here in Boston at Pine Manor.
Okay. So your business includes the clinics and camps, and that's the way you work with the other three coaches. You said, do they also work with you in the app or no?
No, the app for the most part has just been me, and then obviously I hired somebody to actually do the coding. But that's something looking to integrate them because I just hired my coaches. Like we just started, I guess, back in November, so we're still pretty new as far as getting them onboarded.
So how long have you had the app?
I've had the app for about like 6 months now. Honestly, I just had the idea and just did it. I didn't really think much. I mean, I knew the role it would play in my business, but I didn't know how it would work. How long would it take? You know, what would I need to do to prepare, you know, for it and the maintenance of it. But yeah, so it's been about 6 months and it's on the right track as far as I'm learning how I can use it in my marketing and differentiating myself from the basketball training market.
So the app, somebody pays and the students can ask about the price in a little bit, but somebody pays a membership, right? And then they can access how they can play basketball, but they can also play private for private lessons with you, correct?
Yeah, so on the app, they'll pay either $10, we changed the pricing model, either $10 for the year or $1 a month. And what that will give them is basically just a library of drills. On the app, they can schedule a private lesson with me or a semi-private or a virtual. But the obviously in-person stuff is mainly if they're in the Boston area. Camp and clinic, obviously, that's where, you know, the worldwide, nationwide aspect goes.
How much do the lessons cost with you?
So for a private lesson, 65 an hour. For a semi-private, which is between 2 to 4 athletes, is $50. And then if we're doing camps and clinics, it's usually about 30 or 40 per kid.
And I know, just a second, Noah. And I know that you have a podcast and you're active on Instagram and Twitter, I believe, right? The podcast is it connected with the app somehow?
No, it's not. It's not. The podcast is just something separate that I just kind of like to do. Eventually, my goal with that is to create like a coaching and mentorship service. Not quite there yet, but that's the idea for that platform.
And the document that we share with the students about the project, it says that you also offer advice on college recruiting. Is that something that eventually you may add into the app as well, or you're not sure yet?
I think it could be integrated, but as far as the coding that would go into it, it would be further down the line. So right now we're making our website kind of like the one-stop shop to access everything that we do. And we're trying to keep the app specifically for player development because people who download the app, then that leads to client retention as far as camps and clinics. Because somebody could download my app in Cali, want to train with me, and then we can go out there. So that's kind of the thinking as far as that.
Okay. Noah.
You kind of answered it, but like, is all like the scheduling through the app, or is it all on the website?
So all the scheduling is on the website. You can access it through the app though.
So can you schedule and like make appointments through the app?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Johnny.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to us. So I had two questions. The first one is, you kind of emphasized on the importance of life skills through basketball, and this is maybe kind of a personal question, but what do you want? One thing you want your customers to get out most of through training with you, whether it's personal or the camp. So like down the road, they could be like, oh, so and so mentioned this, so I can not just use it in basketball, but use it in everything I do.
That's a really good question. I would say the number one thing is self respect and self confidence. Like, right, like I feel like the starting point of achieving anything that you want to do, you have to have the confidence that you can achieve it. If you're not confident in yourself, if you don't love yourself, then how are you going to make the necessary steps to achieve that goal? So I would say that's the number one thing, and how I teach that is just by honestly kicking their ass, making them work harder than they thought that they could work, and then they really understand like, wow, that there's another gear that I have, you know. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question was, who are your main competitors?
It's a good question. As far as the app goes, or as far as just the business in general?
I would say the business in general.
Probably the app as well, since the project is focused on the app.
Okay. So if we're talking about the app, I mean, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the basketball world. DJ Sackman has a platform, I believe his is called Hoop Study. Tyler Relf has one, Driven. His is more so like online as far as the internet. I don't think he has an app. In the Lab, Devin Williams, he has an app. There's not, I say Drew Hanlon would probably be the closest competitor as far as to what I'm doing, because that's kind of where I got the idea from. Because his is actually a library of drills, where majority of the other ones are kind of just like workout programs, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Coach Beasley, what does sets you apart from your competitors? Like, why should your clients train with you and pay money for the app instead of your competitor? What is your main differentiator?
My main thing is just the life skills through basketball, if I'm being honest. That's the number one thing. I mean, anybody can teach skills. Hey, dribble this ball, shoot this way. Like, anybody can teach that. But what gets people to the next level and what gets them the success are those, you know, those the things you can't see, right? Those intangibles, right? That confidence, things like that. As far as the app goes, as far as what differentiates me in the market, as far as in-person training and having the app, there's no in-person trainer in the area that has an app or an online resource for drills. But on the other hand, as far as my competitive advantage, when you talk about the app sports world, I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Students, any questions? Courtney?
What's the biggest challenge for the app so far?
I would say it's been working with the developer. And the reason why that's tough is because I don't know anything about coding. So a change that I might see that's minor might take days worth of coding. So that turnaround time, and so the inability of me to look into as far as like how videos are being added and kind of the nuances of it is coming back to bite me on the back end, because now it's taking more effort to keep it maintaining. But I would say the upkeep of it is probably the number one.
How many people are currently paying members of the app?
None.
Okay, and the target market is 9 to 14 years old, correct?
Yeah, the target market is 9 to 14. Parents of those 9 to 14-year-olds. So you're looking at, you know, married, 2 to 3 children, income ranges between, you know, that 70 to 100. 70 to 150.
I had a quick question. But since your target market is 9 to 14-year-olds, and you mentioned how you're targeting parents, what social media platforms would you use? Would you use more Facebook, because more parents are on that rather than something like Instagram, or both?
Good question. What we've currently been doing is for the in-person training, we've been marketing on Facebook. One of our coaches, he has a limousine business, so he's connected with a lot of the families in a lot of neighborhoods, so he's been using Facebook to drive the in-person traffic. As far as targeting the younger. I'll put it like this: we use Instagram as far as to get the eyeballs to what we're doing, but to get the parents to actually take actionable steps as far as paying for the training and things like that, it's the Facebook, 1000%.
Thank you.
And on Facebook, are you currently paying for Facebook ads?
No, we're not paying for any marketing expenses. We don't do any Facebook ads, any Instagram. Everything's through as of right now, it's been through word of mouth and just, actually a lot of it, a decent amount of it is the podcast as well, because reaching other business owners who then connect you to their community.
Robbie?
Using TikTok to attract the younger market that you guys outlined?
I haven't as consistently, not consistently enough to capture the market. It's a good point though.
Something to think about.
Robbie, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, I noticed there's a significant, like, difference in pricing between, like, using the app and getting, like, an in-person session. But obviously, like, it makes sense, but, like, what's the main difference, like, between having a Zoom, like, one-on-one with, like, drills and stuff compared to, like, in-person, since, like, the price range is so good?
Good question. The biggest difference between a Zoom one-on-one and an in-person, one is the time. In-person is 45, Zoom is only 30. The second thing is obviously the complications with Zoom not being in person. Basketball is all about angles and small details. It's hard to point out those details when I'm pointing through a screen, because I have to tell them, hey, like your left foot needs to go here. They're still trying to figure out their left from the right in order to, right? So it's just that it's harder to communicate through a Zoom session than it would be in person, because I could show them in person, whereas Zoom, they might not be able to pick up on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Robbie, do you have another question? Or
No, I was just agreeing with him.
Tyron, unmute yourself and see if your mic is working. No, we cannot hear you. I'm going to read your question. So Tyron sent a question in the chat. What is your goal for the app within the next 1 to 5 years?
My goal for the app in the next 1 to 5 is get 10,000 downloads. If I can get 10,000 downloads, that means I'm capturing a large market share, and I have basically 100K revenue from an app, from an online asset. So.
But Coach, basically, when we downloaded the app, downloading the app is free, right?
Yeah, so to download the app is free, but you have to pay for a subscription. Currently, right now, it's 15 a month, 120 for the year, but we're discounting it so we can get a higher sign up rate, registration rate.
You're discounting from $10 a month and $1 for forget $10 a month, or $10 a year.
$10 a year.
$10 a year. So when you mentioned that your goal is to have 10,000 downloads, out of those 10,000 downloads, what's your goal for becoming paying members?
I would say at least 10%. If we can convert at least 10% of that, yeah. But 9 times out of 10, the people who download it, they get a 7-day trial. So with that 7-day trial, I mean, I don't know the analytics or the numbers, but I'm pretty sure we all have Amazon and how Amazon gets you, right? You sign up for the 30 days, you forget about the 30 days.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the students? Let's see what is senior. Seniors and basketball guys. Do you have any questions?
I guess, but yeah. So I do a lot of, like you said, I do a lot of skills camps and clinics over the summer, and I work with this program called Above the Rim. It's just all drills and skills. Have you ever thought about kind of getting some of your market from those other skills camps, I guess?
No, I haven't thought about really partnering with any other skills camps or things like that. The only type of partnership that I've thought about is with our 3-on-3 leagues, looking into partnering with AAU programs. so that way they can put their teams into our 3-on-3 leagues.
Coach Beasley, there is another question in the chat for you. Do your clients receive any merch after a session, or do you have a merch line?
No, the only thing we have as merch goes is we have T-shirts actually coming in Thursday, and then we're gonna order another batch of T-shirts for our sponsors for our 3-on-3 league. So the only merch, and mask. We give out masks just to our people who train with us in person, just because obviously there's a whole pandemic out, but we actually have specialized beast training masks. Yeah.
So your sponsors are for the camps and clinics, right? Are they connected somehow to the app or not?
They're not connected to the app, strictly for our 3-on-3 leagues and any free or reduced clinics that we do. So we're going to be doing this coming up May, like a free autistic camp. So we have sponsors who are going to be sponsoring the gym and the shirts for the autistic kids that we're going to be doing a camp for.
Have you considered including sponsors in your app somehow?
I have not. To me, and I'm going to be, and this is kind of like maybe like one of the character flaws that I have. I don't think it's to the quality that I would want somebody to sponsor it, if that makes sense, right? Like it's kind of like my project, and it's not quite there to where I would feel comfortable, somebody backing me financially or putting their name behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
no, you have had the app for 6 months. You said, what do you consider is working, and what you have tried that maybe has not worked so far?
so you're saying in regards to the app, what's working, what's not working?
Yes.
What's work?
In terms of attracting clients, yeah.
You said as far as getting clients.
Yeah. Paying members. Yeah.
What's not working is me when it comes to promoting it and marketing the app. No, I'm going to be serious, because 98% of the revenue comes from what? In-person training, 3v3, and all that. So what would work is taking the time to do that. But I'd say one thing that is working is, even though I'm still compiling the videos so they can be, we call it like drip content, right? Where you like you make a lot of content so you can sequence it over a substantial amount of time. That has been working. So I have consistently been doing that part of it, but the whole marketing and things like that, that's definitely where we're lacking.
Right. Okay. Another question in the chat from Tyron. How do clients find you?
Good question. A lot of them word of mouth. Initially, it's been through the website. So I just hired like one of my assistants. She's really good at Google AdWords and Google Sense. Haven't spent a dime on ads, but we've been getting a lot of traffic through the website, but mainly word of mouth. Somebody sees me either at a court or at a room, or knows somebody who knows somebody, and then they come to me.
I got a quick question. So you said within 1 to 5 years with your app, you wanted to get at least 10,000 downloads and try to transfer that to 10% revenue. But what are some benefits your clients can get for their membership?
Just never-ending content, never-ending skills and drills that they're going to learn. I'm going to be honest, like that, and that's the whole goal, right? Like, think about a library in general that you go to. There's always going to be resources that you can reach back and get. So the game of basketball is ever changing, so they're going to continuously be updated. Not I want to say updated, but they're going to get consistent skills and drills.
Thank you.
Coach Beasley, what was the main reason behind the decision of lowering the price of the app membership?
Because I realized what's bringing in the revenue. The revenue isn't coming from online. Like when I look at other businesses, the revenue doesn't come from online sales and subscriptions per se. It comes from the in-person. They use the online to attract then people into their in-person funnel. So once I had that realization, then it's like, okay, it's a numbers game. How can I get somebody to have the confidence to trust, know, and buy from me in California? Well, if they only have to put a $1 investment, into getting to know me, right? That gives me the chance to kind of sell them, if you will, on the idea of me. So that lower price mark kind of gives people the impression that they can like, know, and trust me to continue to work with me, and then that would open up that in person.
So the app is just basically how you want people to come find out about your business, find out about yourself, and then from there, hopefully schedule a session with you or participate in one of your camps,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if somebody finds you in California, like following your example, and you live in Boston, would you just encourage the person to attend one of your camps? How would that work?
So my sales funnel for that would be, I would get them to do virtual. Then after the virtual, I would look to speak with their coach. And then once I speak with their coach, I would talk to him about the camps and clinics, things of that sort. So that would be the goal. Is to I'm looking to get the contact, because once I get the coach's contact, then he opens the door as far as the email blast and things like that.
So the camps and clinics, you are willing to travel across the United States to do those, correct? Those are like the main, you would say those are some, are camps and clinics the main source of your revenue?
As of right now, it is not, because it's fairly new what we're doing. Like I'm trying this out for the next, for basically this spring and summer. I'm gonna try it out just to see what seeds I can plant and what sprouts, because I have contacts already in Orlando, things like that. But right now, I think for the business, when I look forward the next 2 to 3 years, I think what brings the most around the revenue is the 3-on-3 leagues, because it's just something so different in the market that nobody's ever seen, and the way it's played, as far as it being FIBA, which is international rules, it just makes it that much more enticing.
And somebody was going to ask a question before I interrupted.
So, I'm sorry. With the 3v3s, are those the only thing that, like, you schedule them? Because I know, like, around the world, a lot of people want to play, like, pickup basketball. So I was wondering if there's, like, a way through the app where people can just, like, say there's, like, an open court where they can just find, and you can schedule, like, a 3v3. Like, a group of 3 will go schedule at this park at this time against this group of 3. Is that, like, a thing you've thought of?
Not at all, but that sounds lit. I would definitely do that. Yo.
Kind of like a group of maps. Like, this court's open right now. Like, you can get a group of 3 to go. Because I know, I live in Webster. So at the Webster Lake, like, courts, they're always open. And all my friends want to play pickup there. And, like, sometimes there's 15 people and sometimes there's 3. So it's, like, it's a hit or miss for them. So it's, like, it would be cool to see, like, an app, like, kind of, like, organized 3v3s better.
Like a Pokemon Go for basketball.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, but no, I haven't. I haven't thought about that. That's now keep that one, Noah. Keep that one in your back pocket. Go ahead and approach Google with that one.
Any other questions from the students? Lauren?
You can go.
Sorry, Robbie.
You're good.
What helped you make all these connections to help you with the app and like getting coaches and everything?
Just taking the first step. Like even, getting the coaching opportunity. I decided, back in 2019 that, in the future I would want to do camps and clinics all over the nation. So I just spent my own money, did my own road trip to Ohio, Columbus, then through to Chicago, then Niagara, ended up in Boston, ended up training some of the college players for free. That's how I met the coach. And it's been literally just investing my time into things that I feel like can give me a tangible result. And not necessarily monetarily, but experience or, a connection. It's been just seeking that. Good question.
Robbie?
Yeah, my question was more like personal. How much do you think your like professional like background and experience with basketball gives you an advantage compared to some guys who might not have that like legit experience? So going around the world playing basketball.
I think the vanity of it, right? Like for parents and kids to know, like, hey, my coach played pro. Like I think that's the main one. as far as the tangible one that you could see, but something that doesn't. It's more like a feel thing. Is I feel like me playing pro as opposed to somebody else who hasn't. There's things that I can teach them that somebody who hasn't been at that level, I can teach them how to get there, whereas somebody who's never been there might not know how to get there and kind of the nuances of the game. If that answers the question.
Any other questions for Coach Beasley? Check, because I can only see one set of.
What kind of staff do you have? What does your staff consist of? Like your employees or anyone you work with that works through the app or works to help you schedule? Like you said, the developer. I mean, probably not. I mean, your direct employee, but like kind of like your team.
Right now, there's me, the lead trainer. I have Samantha, who's another trainer. Raf, who's kind of our shooting coach and trainer. His wife is our IT kind of information person. And then we have an invoicing and billing department. I have a podcast engineer that makes 6, and then I have a video editor who chops up like all my raw footage. Still looking for, and notice none of what I said had anything to do with marketing. That's just like operations and kind of keeping the business rolling. So that's definitely a void in the business right now, is that marketing department. So 7 to answer your question.
So I looked at your website, and the first thing I saw was this like the COVID thing. So I really like that because it shows that you actually care about your customers' safety and stuff. But I was wondering if you ever would want to implement, whether it's your website or your app, like even like a mental aspect or a nutrition aspect for players, when if they're just like not having their day, as far as like motivation, just something to get them out of the bed, something to push a little harder.
That's a good point. The nutrition aspect, every player that trains with us, as soon as they, like any new client, they get sent a welcome packet, and this welcome packet has like nutrition benefits, things that they can do to make sure that they're getting their body right, exercises to do on a daily, and then there's a plugin for our app so they can train with us. But we don't have anything for the mental health aspect as far as check in like a motivational email or anything like that. But it's a good point to consider for sure.
Thank you.
And especially because it's already embedded in what you do, right? Like you use a lot of motivational quotes on your Instagram and your podcast. It's a lot of that too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know with a lot of like YouTubers, like they'll play basketball, like you're talking about Dev from In the Lab, you got TJS, Devontae Friga, like all those guys. I feel like all the reason that their businesses like do so well is because they built up their personal brand. So have you ever thought about maybe making like YouTube content which would get more traffic towards you, which would get more traffic towards your brand?
Good question. I actually have.
Obviously,
Oh, sorry.
go like around, and obviously you could go around and just like to local parks and just play basketball. I assume you do that in the regular anyways. So maybe if you like record some pickup games, get it on like an editor, maybe YouTube, we'll love it.
Yeah, it's funny. That's actually why I had to hire an editor, because I already, like you said, I already record all my like workout videos and things like that. I have a decent following on YouTube. I'm at 600 subscribers. But again, that consistency piece. So yeah, I think that would definitely help the personal brand for sure. Instagram and the Facebook, TikTok. Somebody else mentioned it earlier in the conversation, and with those platforms, that's the thing, is the consistency. Like it takes a considerable amount of time to, like when I look at the people in my marketplace, like the content they post, it's consistent and it's valuable, it's relevant, but it's also very professional. Like they're not just putting out some trash content, right? Like it's actually, they're taking the time to like edit, and that's something I would like to get to, but not there yet. As an organization, we're not there yet.
Robbie is a basketball guy, and he's also a social media expert now, since a lot of his internship and work has been focused on that, creating content and managing social media platforms. Yeah, I can see why his question is related to that. that was a good question, Robert. Anybody else? Jacob, do you have any not? No? No. Anybody else?
I know we talked about nutrition a little bit, but if it, so I don't know how to like pose it, but just something to think about would be partnering with Protein Powerball. It was one of our clients last semester. It's made by pharmacists, it's all organic food, stuff like that. So I think if you wanted to take this is like if you, as like an app or a company, want to take a nutrition stance kind of thing, or like give an option for that. I think going down the line of like partnering with another company like Protein Powerball would kind of be like mutually beneficial, because they do want to target the younger audience as well, which is kind of like right in your alley, as well as like if you offer a post workout snack or something like that, it goes a long way with like the training aspect as a whole too.
It's a good point.
I think that also your target market, based on their income and the ages of the kids, is very similar with Protein Powerball target market. Mike, would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Because you were talking about targeting the parents of your 9 to 14-year-olds, which is kind of like along the same lines as Protein Powerball. Because we last semester determined that they wanted to kind of like reach the as well as go after the parents, which exactly they have the money to pay for the snack itself. So
yeah, and they're also around that $70,000 to $100,000 range, and they are a local company from the Boston area as well. So we'll make sure to include that idea in some of their presentations, and I can share their contact information as well.
Please do.
Very nice people to work with. Yeah. Noah?
Have you ever started thought to work with like the AAU like travel teams like Swarm or something like that?
It's funny because I think it was the Swarm. It was either the Swarm or the Shock or something. But there was actually an AAU organization that reached out to us because they wanted us to start an AAU organization. But we realized that we didn't want to go that route. We kind of want to be kind of that, not filter program, but we want to be that program where AAU organizations can send their players to us. So kind of how we're trying to do with the 3-on-3 leagues, we're trying to really use our AAU connects to get them for our leagues, because it's only going to develop them for their AAU.
So my biggest experience with this type of stuff is when working, I found that a lot of athletes that you or athletes' parents in this case that you build connections with that keep coming back, like they'll start grabbing their friends and being like, hey, you want to come with me, or you want to try this out with me, and I was wondering if is there any group of kids that are that consistent that you have that type of relationship with, where you think that they would try to help you expand?
Yeah, like I said, majority of the clientele that I've gotten over the last 4 months has been because of that. They tell their friend, hey, this coach, he just put me through a great workout. You got to pull up. You got to come through. So that's, I would say, a good part, and this is just a guesstimate, 60% of the clients that we have either have or will refer in the future a friend. Yeah, that's actually an initiative this spring. Because I'm going to be away, I want to make sure my coaches are busy working. That's an initiative we're going to be launching coming in April. Is if you refer a friend, you get a free lesson. So that way we can really get imprint in their minds, because we get one client, that client over the course of a year is going to give us pretty much anywhere between $3,500 to $4,500. So we'll pay $50 on the front end for a free session for bringing somebody in who's going to eventually spend that.
Any other questions?
do you have any way to track your SEO or your analytics for your website and or your app?
The app, no. The website, we do. My IT person handles that and kind of runs me the numbers. And that's something I'm not really knowledgeable about. So I just kind of trust her judgment and what she's doing with that it's going to convert. And it has been. We've been getting a large number of of clients who just, hey, I just searched you on Google and found you. So it's definitely working.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I even did a little Google search to try to test it, it was Beast basketball training was the one that got the best results. Beast training didn't really come up that much, so that's why I just thought I'd ask.
Mm. Mm.
Anybody else? Other questions? Yes, Robert.
This is not related, but who's your March Madness favorite?
It's funny that you asked that because I haven't watched much men's basketball. I'm more of a women's basketball coach because they play the game so beautiful. It's just so simple. Dribble, drive, kick. I'm not gonna talk basketball, so I don't know who on here is a basketball player, basketball fan. But if I'm going March Madness on the women's side, it's Louisville. If I'm going on the men's side, I don't even have a favorite. I like that point guard from Arizona State though. He's nice.
Oh, Grammy Martin.
Yeah, he's nice.
Simeon, did you raise your hand? Oh, it was clapping.
I was just reacting at the athlete that he named. That's one of my favorites right now.
And Courtney plays basketball for our college. Courtney, do you have other questions? I know you already asked me.
I would just want to ask, like, what's your favorite part about coaching?
Seeing when my players get that like light bulb moment. Like you've probably played where coach is putting in an offense or something and you just don't get it, and then one day it just randomly clicks and you understand it. I live for those moments. Those moments are amazing. It's just like, oh, like you got it. Like, okay, cool. Now we can progress to the next level. Yeah, those moments are probably what I live for.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
I would say, what is some, you already talked about like the rewarding part of coaching, but like, if you could give yourself advice when you first started, what would you give yourself? Coaching could be about your program, any of it.
I would say this point, and hopefully I can verbalize my thoughts and feelings on that question. That's a really good question. It would be, if I could tell my younger self, it would be separate basketball in the art form from basketball in the business form. And what I mean by that is like basketball is an art as far as like playing it, as far as like teaching somebody the game. Like there's like you can't put a price value on like a nugget of wisdom passed down to somebody just by being in the lab, right? But at the same token, right, it is a business. So if somebody says that they're going to do something at a certain time and you don't hold them to that monetary commitment, that those other business obligations, right, you kind of mix the two and then you leave yourself feeling empty and drained, right, for trying to run it. You can't, at least if I could tell my old self, like you can't mix the two. Like either this is a business or you're doing it for the love. You need to establish that with the people that you're working with. Hey, we're doing this on business terms today, if that makes sense. Like, or, and I'll give it some context. Like a lot of times I'm in the gym, somebody wants to work with me. If I'm just working out and I want to give out that free game and I don't want anything, cool, you know what I mean? I'll work out with them because that's my sacred time. That's my art form time, right? But if somebody says that, hey, I want to book a session with you and I want your time, putting a monetary value on that time because that time is valuable and holding them to that. I would say that would be something I would tell my old self or my younger self.
I have a question as well. Where do you think your clients find intangible value with your brand?
I think it's the intangible value is that family feel. Like all of our coaches are like friends with all of the kids, as in like we know about what they're doing in their games. We had one player, she's in her senior year having a hard time with her coach. We've hopped on Zoom calls and watched film with her. They know that we care about them and their lives and we're not just doing it just to make money. I think that's the intangible value that they get, that feel.
Adding on to what Mike said, I would would say, what is, so like you said, you talked about your senior student who's like having struggling with like your coach. So you have students who are potentially like moving on to the next level. How do you try to assist in that as well?
So same thing, kind of refers back to your previous question, right? Basketball in the art form and the business side. I let them know, hey, we have a recruiting business. These are the things that we could do, and we'll make sure that like we're in your corner. But if you just want to kind of talk about it, we can just talk about it. But if you really want us to help you get there, we have a program to get you there. So that's how that's handled.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes, Tim.
What was your experience like when you were getting recruited, and how do you think that helps you in terms of giving advice, maybe for your clients?
My experience with getting recruited was I didn't get recruited. I had to walk on to both of the schools that I went to like earn my spot. What that helps me then do is understand the things that players need to do to get in front of a coach, as in how to create their film, how to email coaches, kind of that the muddy part of the recruiting process. I've been through the mud, so I can share experiences to help them get through that.
And I know that Tyler, you have your hand up, right?
Yeah, I have so I know you average from ages 9 to 14, but you do specific training for specific positions like the 3 and the 4, like kids who have aspirations of playing those positions. Like, do you specifically train them for that position, or do they kind of like develop those traits?
I train. I don't specialize in any position. I teach any position because I've played all 5, and that's a benefit of that whole recruiting process that the previous person asked. I've played in high school the 5 positions, so I can teach the 5. I can teach. Doesn't really matter to me. They let me know what they want to do, and hey, you're 6'4". At the next level, you're probably not a post. We got to turn you into a guard or things like that.
Anybody else? Well, thank you, Coach Beasley. We are going to see you back in class again on March 19th. So like I explained, the 2 groups are going to have 30 minutes each to tell you about their ideas. And they, at the end of the project, if you are happy with their ideas and you would like to continue, I'm going to pitch in our internship program, which is like we have about 265 students, and they all need internships. So if you're happy with the work that they produce in the class and you would like to apply some of their ideas and you need help with the marketing, you and I can talk and see if we can create an internship for between our program and your organization.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. Hopefully I answered all y'all's questions. I was on the hot seat. I had me nervous for a little bit.
And then my other question is, if they have questions as they move along through the project, will it be okay for me to share your email address with them?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, and we'll see you back on March 19th.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa.